All right, it's 8:46. We're going to go ahead and go live. I don't think anybody else is here on the YouTube. Welcome back to another blowout edition of the Jungle Auburn podcast. Sports fans, it's getting tough. BP bailed on us this year. Matt and Jackson bailed on us this year. And all hope has bailed on us this year. Auburn drops another top 10 challenge in basketball, 88-60 in Indianapolis, basically a home game against the number 6 Purdue Boilermakers. We lose 2 key starters to injury late when the game was already out of hand. The bad news just continues to get worse. Auburn has completely blown its best opportunities to get some marquee wins in the offseason. St. John's, our best win in the Players Era tournament, is looking worse by the day with St. John's dropping a game to Kentucky earlier tonight. So it's gonna be an interesting conference season. Auburn's gonna need some help to make it 5 straight years getting into the NCAA tournament. That is still rarefied air. That is up there with some of the best basketball programs in the nation to make the tournament 5 years in a row. But in this podcast opinion, which is just my opinion now, that's becoming more and more of a stretch goal. Auburn looked completely lost on defense once again. They were down 14 at the half. They added another 14 to the deficit to lose by 28. It is the third absolute blowout of the season. They lost by 30 to Michigan, 29 to Arizona, and now 28 to Purdue. And if there's one bright note that you can take away from this, it's that all those games occurred away from Neville Arena. But the problem for Auburn is that all the biggest games of the year are going to happen away from Neville Arena this year. So we're going to bring up Justin Ferguson's box score and we're going to try to go through the game piece by piece here, talk to you a little bit about what went wrong, what went right. Almost nothing went right. We'll start with Kevin Overton's game, though. Kevin Overton had another great game as a scorer. He finished with 22 points on 8 of 11, 8 of 18 shooting. So not exactly efficient to get to his 22 points, including 4 of 11 from deep. A lot of those 3-point shots happened late. He grabbed 5 rebounds and had 2 assists, but he also had some very silly fouls tonight. You saw a lot of that from the Auburn Tigers, who finished with 14 total fouls to Purdue's. Oh, also 14. Okay, so they caught up in the second half. One of the startling things about the way this game started was Purdue went almost 10 minutes without being called for a foul. And for a team that features Keyshawn Hall, the free throw merchant of the SEC, one of the best players at putting his body on the line to get to the line for easy baskets, he only shot 2 free throws tonight, a complete aberration for the big guard, number 7. He also only grabbed 3 rebounds and had 2 assists to go along with his 14 points. Just an off night for everybody in orange and blue. And Purdue got pretty much whatever they wanted. We saw a lot of what we saw against Michigan and Arizona, a lot of double screen action happening high, guys rotating low. And then on the second chance points were absolutely brutal tonight, with guys being left wide open on the wing. Probably the most disappointing thing about the way this roster has been constructed is the defense. We brought in guys like Keyshawn Hall to score a lot of points and make up for some of the gap that was going to be left behind by Janai Broome. But both him, Kevin Overton, and particularly Filip Jovic leave so much to be desired on the defensive end. When plays extend beyond the 5th or 6th pass, these guys are just getting absolutely lost out there on the floor. But every once in a while, you see them put it all together. I mean, late in the first half, Auburn shot clocked Purdue. It was one of the first times we've shot clocked one of these top teams all year. And we used to see that pretty regularly with the defense last year. So once again, a huge fall off in production, not just offensively, but particularly on the defensive end. Purdue shot 100% from the free throw line tonight. They did not miss a free throw. They were only 10 for 10 at the line. But again, winning basketball there. Auburn barely barely lost the turnover margin, 10-11. But the points off turnovers was the big thing. Purdue scored 14 points off of Auburn's 10 turnovers. Auburn only scored 4 points off of 11 Purdue turnovers, and especially some of those turnovers were late, so it didn't really matter. Auburn got absolutely obliterated on the boards, 36-25, but especially defensively, Purdue grabbed 27 defensive rebounds to Auburn's 14, and that contributed to the huge gap in what is clearly the key stat of the game: second chance points. Purdue finished with 15 to Auburn's 5. That's 10 plus points on second chance points, and then plus 20 in the paint, 40-20. We knew going into the year that this Auburn team was going to be undersized. And we got some bad news with Emeka Oporum, who looked like he may be showing some progress and could be a decent rotation guy going out for the year, that Auburn's going to be small, and they're going to continue to be small all year. But rebounding is not purely about size, it's also about hustle. And it's about guys fighting and getting themselves in good position. But speaking of getting yourselves in good position, a lot of that's going to contribute to the assist game. Understanding not just where you're supposed to be on offense, but where you're supposed to be on defense. We saw so many guys last year in Denver Jones and Chaney Johnson that just, and even Chris Moore at times, bringing a fun name back up. Chris Moore would occasionally step into a passing window where you could just tell the scout was there. And Purdue, 21 assists to Auburn's 13. So again, just obliterated in the assist column. Purdue had 21 assists on 33 made baskets. Auburn had 13 assists on what was only 21 made baskets. So you could argue that there's some decent ball movements, at least on the shots that we made. But Auburn shot 36% from the floor. Another miserable game from three at only 28%. Meanwhile, Purdue on the other side just lighting it up, 56 from the floor and 46% from deep, including a heroic performance from Jakari Harris, who shot pretty well last year. He shot 36%, but was coming into this game shooting 28% on the season. He'd only made 7 3-pointers in Purdue's first 11 games, and he was 4 of 6 tonight from deep. And some of that is, due to just guys finding their stroke, regressing to the mean, right? But a lot of those looks were wide open because we were helping too much and at the wrong points. And a lot of that comes back to Auburn not having the size, not just that it did last year, but the size to compete against this elite competition. We've got a lot of guys that are finally 6'6", 6'7", and 6'8", but we don't have anybody on this team that's over 6'10" now, especially with Emeka Oporum out. And when Keyshawn Murphy goes to the bench, we're bringing in at the 5 a freshman, Filip Jovic, who's still getting used to American ball and who's only 6'8" and is not that much of an athletic freak. Positives. Let's talk some positives tonight. We saw a little bit of growth from Elijah Freeman, but some continued regression against elite competition. He had a fantastic game. He was our MVP against Chattanooga, but tonight 1 of 6 from the floor in a game in which we really needed his freak ability to get to the basket around some of these trees. Only grabbed 3 rebounds, but he did lead the team with 3 assists. So starting to see the floor a little bit better. We saw some serious minutes from Caden Magwood tonight, 15 minutes with Todd Pettiford going out late with an injury. He came back out with a walking boot. Hopefully that's just precautionary. But Caden Magwood couldn't score. 1 of 3, including 0 of 1 from deep. 0 rebounds for him and only 2 assists. So not exactly facilitating things well. He also had a turnover. Every Auburn player that touched the floor tonight turned the ball over at least once, except for Filip Jovic. And you can argue that Filip Jovic had a really bad turnover because he took a great inside feed and tried to go over his back shoulder with a 7'4" guy on the floor. I think another thing that's just been so disappointing about this team is we're used to seeing teams find their strength under BP, and whatever that strength is on offense, whether it's getting into the high pick and roll, whether it's working inside to a big man and then coming back outside to shooters, or whether it's just playing run and gun and doing tempo. This team, especially in the losses, has not been able to find anything that works. Auburn had 3 fast break points tonight. Now, some of that's due to Purdue slowing the game down. Purdue only had 9 fast break points themselves. But overall, Auburn's ability to run the court as an undersized team has to become a strength if they're ever going to be able to get up off the mat against these big, tall teams. And I hate to break it to you, man, with SEC play coming, we're only going up against bigger and taller. Trevion Brazil, Thomas Ho, a lot of big guys in the front court. Owe Otega. I mean, we keep going down the list of teams that have big, strong front courts this year. And Auburn's going to have to figure out a way to score. And they're going to have to figure out a way to score consistently because they cannot go on these long stretches without a basket. This game was never particularly close, but it entered blowout territory when Todd Pettiford went out of the game. Auburn went nearly 5 minutes without a basket to close this one. They finished 1 for their last 11 shots. So again, even when Purdue is not particularly playing that hard a defense, trying to 30-point us, Auburn can't find a guy anywhere on the floor that is open or that has a cutting line to the basket. Yeah, and so many of the other things that went wrong tonight are just about understanding your offensive positioning. I mean, the game could kind of be summed up to Todd Pettiford cut into the lane and gave a beautiful feed to Keyshawn Murphy to try to cut the lead down from 15. Murphy fumbles the ball. and it goes the other way, and it's a 2 point game and or 2 point shot from Purdue, and now it's back to a 17 point lead. So every time there was an opportunity to begin to close that gap and establish some momentum, Auburn just could not string six winning plays together. And as you look back through this offseason that was ripe with opportunities, just like last year was, there was kind of a sliding doors moment for these Auburn Tigers. And it was the end of the Houston game where they played six excellent possessions of basketball to get the lead down to 1 point and to get the ball with about 20 seconds left on the clock. And Auburn had three looks at the basket and could not get a bucket. Auburn went on to lose that game, and it's the closest they've looked all year against top competition. Maybe they just caught Houston early. Um, it certainly seems like Auburn has regressed, and some of that has been losing guys, whether it's to injury or just the nagging things that continue to cause them to not play up to their full ability. This Auburn team is a much better team when Kevin Overton is able to score like he was tonight. But I mean, doing it on 18 shots is not going to do it. He's not meant to be our volume guy. Todd Pettiford only took 7 shots tonight. Once again, 1 of 5 from three. He continues to struggle with his consistency from deep. He's had a couple of games where he's really gone off, but overall, it's just been a deeply, deeply inconsistent year for Todd Pettiford from a scoring position. And when you watch a guy like Braden Smith, who was flirting with a triple double tonight, he finished with 14 assists, 5 rebounds, and 11 points. He was 6 of 6 from the line. He's only 2 of 5 from the field, but again, 14 assists. I mean, that's a point guard that understands the offense and understands how to get the ball to his playmakers. And so much of this Auburn offense has just become so incredibly static. I mean, you watch, we're running a high ball screen with our 3 and 4 standing on the wing, waiting to see what's going to happen to try to create space in the lane. And every single one of these players, top to bottom, looks a step behind. That includes Todd Pettiford, who last year seemed to have such an elite first step cutting into the lane. Some of that is what we're asking to do is different this year, and it's going to take some getting used to. But I don't expect this team to improve in conference play. I think 20-12 is about the ceiling for this team. I think if we can win 11 games in conference, that's a pretty big deal. That will probably get us into the tournament. Um, but man, it's going to be tough. This team just doesn't have a lot of strengths, and it has a ton of weaknesses, particularly at depth and particularly at size. We're finally not seeing any more Blake Michalek minutes, so at the very least, Stephen Pearl started to take that element of the rotation seriously. But it's so clear that so many of these guys need another year. I mean, Abdul Bashir has not seen the floor. Some of that's been sickness and illness. Mecca Oporum has shut it down for the year with whatever his medical condition is. We hope both of those guys get healthy and want to come back and try to contribute as players next year. The things that we saw from them look like they could potentially be contributors down the road, but guys that you wanted to be instant impact. Caden Magwood as a backup point guard, Elijah Freeman as a D2 freak that tons of top programs wanted. Keyshawn Hall, honestly, like as a guy that came in leading the Big 12 in scoring, his consistency on offense is not good enough to overcome his defensive deficits. And I don't know how much of that is lagging injury and how much of that is just trying to get used to a new system, playing under new coaches. But defensively, he is not it. And Kevin Overton, same way. He's able to play some hero ball towards the ends of halves, but trying to find out what his role is going to be, because he should not be a guy that's shooting 18 times a game for us. And then trying to keep Murph healthy, because I mean, we just have nobody behind him now. I know Steven has talked about trying to go into the JUCO and see if we can bring up another center, but even then, Emeka Oporum was one of the best centers in JUCO last year, and so trying to bring up a junior college guy as you're getting ready for SEC ball and expecting him to contribute more than 4 minutes a game, it's just unrealistic. So I hope you all enjoyed last season. I kind of wish I'd rode off into the sunset when Matt and Jackson and BP did. It was clear that was going to be the Auburn's best year, maybe ever. The one thing that you can hope is that a lot of these guys stick it out. In the year of the transfer portal and the NIL, it's going to be possible that a lot of these guys are going to want to move on. Kevin Overton's going to graduate for sure. Keyshawn Murphy's going to graduate. Keyshawn Hall, I believe, is out of eligibility after this season. So we're going to be bringing in some fresh faces no matter what. But you hope some of these guys, like Sebastian Williams Adams, wants to come back. You hope Elijah Freeman wants to have another go around. You hope Todd Pettiford wants to stick it out in an Auburn jersey for one more year. All that remains to be seen. I mean, there there's still time to make the tournament and maybe win a couple of games and write your season. But as Jackson was so fond of always saying, there's sort of the awesome thing about college basketball is there's really like three championship eras, right? There's the regular season, there's your conference tournament, and then there's March Madness. And if you can have two of those seasons go really well, it's a great historic year. If you have one of those seasons go really well, you feel pretty good about it. I think it's safe to say, looking at how Auburn has performed against top competition and the just complete lack of improvement, maybe 1 point per game. So we're instead of losing by 28 next time, we'll lose by 27 against the Floridas and the Kentuckys and unfortunately the Alabamas. Auburn's going to have a tough time this year. Thankfully, there are some other teams in the SEC that are not looking as good. Ole Miss doesn't look as good this year, but Arkansas looks pretty good. Missouri looks like they're putting it together. It's hard to tell if Georgia's a paper tiger or not yet. They've had some decent wins and the metrics love them. Vanderbilt, the metrics love Vanderbilt. So when you're looking around at Auburn's SEC schedule, trying to find 9 or 10 wins, it's a scary prospect. Auburn is going to have to punch way above its weight if it is going to make the tournament for a fifth year in a row and continue that incredible legacy. But as we begin to bring the non-con to a close, I think it's pretty clear that Auburn team we saw against Oklahoma State in the offseason and the one we saw against Bethune-Cookman to start the year, that's who these guys are. They can occasionally put together some offensive fireworks, but the defense is never going to be elite. And any team with talented size is going to absolutely roast Auburn. And if we can't shoot the ball well enough or rebound well enough to keep ourselves in it, teams are just going to run away from us because we don't value the basketball. We don't close out on the 3-point line. And we don't have anybody that is consistent enough on the offensive end to put together 25 points a game the way that we could with Janai Broom. And we don't have an eraser in Dylan Cardwell on the inside when guys are getting blown by again and again and again. So it's going to continue to be a tough, long year. We're glad that you came to join us tonight on the Jungle Auburn podcast. For those of you that did, let me pull up the chat here and see if anybody's watching. Hey, Josh Lindsay, great job staying faithful. I don't know, man. If you watch if you watch our Twitter feed, not so faithful these days. But we love Auburn basketball. We don't just love Auburn basketball when it wins. And so that's why we keep coming back. And we'll see if we can get together with Ike over at the War Report, maybe bring some special guests on to do a little SEC preview, talk about what it will take to right the ship, get Auburn to 9 wins in conference, and hopefully an NCAA tournament berth. But until next time, War Eagle, and we'll see you soon. All right, Josh. Oh, I see 4 people are watching. Check that out. Well, one of them's me, so there's 3 people watching. Josh, thanks for being here. Shout out. I don't know what our key stat's going to be. I'm going to make the graphic later. I'm not in a rush to get it out. Kind of same how I feel about this podcast. But thanks for being here, YouTube.